But there's a larger point, I think, about the Biden administration. In one way, it's an extraordinarily experienced administration. The India-US relationship started changing, I would say, from Clinton's second term.
Mm-hmm.
Clinton came to India in 2000, literally the last year of his presidency. He sort of started something moving. Then really George W. Bush, I think, did the big moves thereafter.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting, you've had 5 American presidents, Clinton, Bush, Obama, Trump, Biden. Can't think of 5 people more different from each other, who have disagreed amongst themselves on a whole lot of issues at home and abroad, but who've actually been singularly consistent in the manner in which they have sought to engage India and to enhance our relationship. So, when you are faced with, when you look at that kind of consistency, you realize that in many ways this is deeper than the politics of the day.
Mm-hmm.
That this is something which is structural, where there is actually a kind of an establishment consensus, if you would, because remember they've alternated politically as well. So now in the case of President Biden, because he's been around for a long time, I've been around a long time, and I can say here's someone who's been around very much longer. He's actually been involved in the growth of the relationship at different points of time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to see him along with my boss in 2005. At that time, I think if I remember right, he was the ranking minority member of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Dick Lugar was the chairman, and seeking his support for the nuclear deal. So he's known this relationship, or he's seen the evolution of this relationship, and as vice president, when Prime Minister Modi came to the US in 2014, I was the ambassador then. He was vice president, and he was strongly supportive of what we were trying to do. But there's a larger point, I think, about the Biden administration. In one way, it's an extraordinarily experienced administration. If you look at the Secretary of State, the NSA, the Director CIA, the DNI, even the Secretary of Defense. These are people who work multiple administrations, know the world. They're not new on the job. They really put it together. You're really looking at 100 plus years of experience out there. Secondly, collectively, I think this is an administration which is very determined to get along with the world, which is willing to make the adjustments in many ways to find, maintain, and develop partners. So I do not mean it in any way as disrespect. It's not easy, if you're the most powerful country in the world, to be necessarily sensitive and necessarily adjusting. To me, the big change, and one of the reasons in my opening remark, I said that, the Quad is working well because the pillars of the Quad are all well developed and are working well. But I think one other reason the Quad is working well is actually the United States is showing the flexibility and the understanding to make the Quad work well. And this is a big evolution, to my mind, really, in America's approach to world politics.